So I'm here today with Nathan Atkinson from Rethink Food, and Nathan has kindly offered to let me tell his story in the book that I'm writing, which is Leading Beyond Sustainability. Very briefly, the book is about thinking beyond the challenges of sustainability to the world that we actually want to live in, a brighter future for us all. And it's a world where there is peace, meaning no war and declining levels of violence around the world. It's a world of connection, and that means physical connection with the internet, social media, but also the connection that comes in the form of collaboration, compassion, love and kindness. It's a world of abundance of all the things that we need, of food, water, energy, services, and wealth, and so on. It's a world of vitality, which is all about being healthy, not just for people, but for all of life and for the planet that we live in. It's a world that is led by wisdom, where leaders do the right thing in the right way at the right time. And finally, it's a world of opportunity for learning, growth, and contribution, where people can lead their best life and also have the education that they need in order to do that. And just for reference, these 6 aspirations, when you map them against the current Sustainable Development Goals, you can see there they are. These will be familiar to many of the people watching the video today. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were signed off by the United Nations in 2015. I just want you to notice that all 17 are covered by the 6 aspirations, and yet wisdom, which is the one at the bottom there, doesn't map directly to any of the 17, but if you like, could be regarded as a thread that goes all the way through the other 5 aspirations. So what I'd like to do is to stop sharing the screen, because the most important thing today is to hear about Nathan's story. And Nathan, I could have told this story under several of these banners, but we're going to tell it under the banner of abundance, in the belief that there is plenty of food to go around if we only do the right things in the right way. So stopping sharing the screen, and Nathan, over to you. So what can you tell us about how you got started and right up to what you're doing today?
Yeah, well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share that story, and really interesting. And as you say, that food definitely could cover all of those 6 areas. And we've seen that looking at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, you can put food at the heart of the goals and use that as a medium to be able to teach all the goals. But like you say, for the purpose of this conversation, focusing on that abundance and the challenge that people face in improving their access to food. We see that the abundance links in with availability, and that there is a lot of food available. It's the challenge comes when it's around accessing it and unlocking it and making people being able to know what to do with food when they get it. So there's a whole host of problems. And traditionally, when people think about food education or food skills, it's very much on that basic cutting, peeling, chopping. But actually, it's far more complicated than that. And in the work that we have evolved Rethink Food to do, it kind of addresses looking at that wider food system to take all those things into account. But if we go back to the very beginning of this journey, it's back in October 2014, when at that point in time, I was a head teacher of a large primary school, and an incident happened in school that really highlighted that children were arriving at school hungry each day. And bearing in mind 2014, so it's before the pandemic and the challenge that brought, and that shone a spotlight even greater on the need for young people, particularly at home, and not being able to access the free school meals that they're eligible for here in England. It's before the cost of living crisis that we've experienced in recent years. So back in 2014, not many people were talking about child hunger and vulnerability in the way that maybe conversations have happened in recent years. So I ended up writing the word hunger on my office wall, and along with another teacher, Kevin Mackay, we worked to remove hunger as a barrier to learning. And the legacy of that early work, trying to provide improved access and availability of food to our communities in school, has evolved, and the legacy of that work is now Rethink Food. So we have a number of different programs that we deliver. We have a number of different ways that in which we work. Our ultimate goal is to be able to deliver 10 million hours of food education, because there's a lot of work that happens around food that solves the problem immediately and puts food into people's hands, and in doing that, it doesn't necessarily empower people. It's a short-term fix, and our belief is that to create that long-term behavioural change, the answer to that lies in quality education. And when we look at the education that's provided in primary schools in particular, it's very dependent on the passion of the school leadership and the interest and the skills of the teachers within that individual setting. The national curriculum in England is very basic when it comes to food, and we really want to challenge that norm, and we want to be able to revolutionize food education in a way that doesn't just focus on chopping, peeling, mixing. It takes into account the wider food system. And a big part of what we do, particularly locally across Leeds and Bradford, is we work to use surplus food. So food that supermarkets, wholesalers, a whole host of different people have deemed surplus to their own requirements, and a lot of it would have been wasted. We have an amazing team of paid employees and volunteers who travel the city, collecting food from supermarkets. We receive large donations from businesses. Just last week, we had 3 pallets of food that were delivered to us, that had been transported some distance. Where I'm speaking from now is the Rethink Food headquarters, which has got the surplus food side, which has got walk-in fridges, walk-in freezers, pallets of food. We've got a really intensive 7-day-a-week operation of that, collecting food, distributing it. We've got 180 people a week that come and collect a crate of food from us and then have access to other food. We've got the schools across Leeds and Bradford, over 40 schools during term time that we're delivering food to. We've got community groups that are collecting that food. So we're turning over about 10 tons of food a week. And when you think about that, the scale of it, and it's actually, the scale is impressive, but the quality of the food that we're turning over is equally impressive. And over time, that's something that's evolved, and we've become really passionate about thinking about the nutritional content of the food that we distribute, because it would be quite easy for us just to send loads of unhealthy food out, and any food is good food, and there's an argument for that. But actually, when we're thinking about health and well-being, we have to think about the type of food that we're providing. So as Rethink Foods evolved, we've been able to recruit a member of the team who has a degree in nutrition, and she works really carefully to nutritionally value the food that we're sending out to our schools and community groups. There's always going to be a place for treats and crisps and certain things that go out, but we have to be really focusing on that complete sort of nutritional breakdown. So that's something that we've evolved. We've got a lot of fruit and vegetables that we're able to send out to schools, and that's important for creating healthy habits and working with young people to really establish that focus on healthier eating. So we've got the surplus food, which is a really busy, vibrant space, and then also within the headquarters, we've evolved to have the office spaces where we've got our team, which is made up of a number of former teachers. So we've got a really strong educational element to what we do. We've got the nutritionist side, and we've also developed an amazing, talented team that are working to develop a creative digital content for us. So when we first started, this was very local, and we were able to deliver our content locally across Leeds and Bradford. And even up to the pandemic hitting, myself and Kevin was spending a lot of time on the road traveling. So one of the programs that we developed was using a growing tower, which you were one of the early adopters of that technology, and we shared one of those. I remember right back in probably 2018, maybe, that we were able to get one of those towers. And we worked with corporate businesses to sponsor these to go into schools. So there's over 100 schools now that have got the growing towers across the country. And at the time, myself and Kevin were traveling, setting these up, delivering the lessons, getting young people excited about growing food and growing food using alternative methods, thinking about vertical farming on a mini scale, seeds to salad in 60 days, creating exciting content to go with them. So lesson plans that link to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but then taking that further, and we created a Jack and the Beanstalk module where schools grow their own beanstalks. But rather than thinking about the beanstalk growing, the focus is on whatever happened to Jack's cow, and that opened up opportunities for us to teach about dairy farming, but also introduce creative writing and various things. And we developed a Mission to Mars module, which thought about growing food in space. And as time has progressed, we've been able to develop really high quality production value content that is going out into schools. So we hire a film production studio where we record, we're recruiting professional presenters. We were commissioned by the Greggs Foundation to create a health program for them to share with schools. So over the next 3 years, we're creating this program which will be delivered into 800 schools across the UK. And to go back to the point around scale, we developed a learning platform. So the Rethink Food Academy, which is a locked platform where schools can get membership, where we host all this digital content. And this is a real revolution in food education. It's finding a way of delivering a difficult message that young people, quite honestly, become very resistant to. So messaging around 5 a day and sugar swaps, they're kind of been ignored and disregarded. And so back in 2017, when we first started talking in particular to you around the Sustainable Development Goals, we found that you had to revolutionize. So using the SDGs as a framework to teach food was brilliant. And we saw that young people were more willing to change their eating habits for the benefit of the planet than they were their own health and well-being, which we found equally exciting as it was scary. So we're constantly thinking about different ways and creative ways and imaginative ways to deliver these difficult messages. And that's where this creative team that we've been able to develop here at Rethink Food have been able to work to their strengths to produce this amazing content. So we're passionate about further creating amazing content, a unique approach, and revolutionizing in food education. Say that, going back to my point at the beginning, this is beyond food preparation, because food is so incredibly complex. Quite often you'll have conversations and you can see on social media, people think that it's a simple solution. Give somebody some food and they'll cook it, teach them how to make a meal. But actually, some of the people, and this is kind of the opposite to abundance, some families won't even have a kitchen. We can't make assumptions about what people have got access to. People might only have a kettle. Because of, like, we've seen how fuel costs have risen. People and stories in the media around food banks not wanting to give people things that needed to be boiled for a long time because of the amount of fuel that would take up and that would use. So trying to think about all the barriers that different people and families and people in different vulnerabilities face, and then finding these positive ways to overcome them, and find that by being empowering and really believing in people and the content matching those kind of needs has meant that we're able to engage effectively and receive very positive feedback from different partners. So just in summary there, we've got the surplus food side, we've got the growing towers, and then the long-term drive is really revolutionizing food education, being the experts and the go-to people in food education. And our learning right from 2014 to now means that kind of our baseline of operation keeps getting higher and higher as an organization, becoming more professional, as the number of paid employees that we're able to have, the volunteers, the networks that we've been able to build, the learning journey that we're on as a business and as individuals is absolutely incredible. And every single day presents a new challenge linked to food, no matter how creative you can be in terms of your anticipating what the need is for young people and for families, because the amount of time we spend in schools, because of the amount of time we listen to different stakeholders and communities, we're always learning and we're always.
I think you've frozen, Nathan. I don't know whether this will come out on the recording or not, but I imagine you'll come back in a moment.
Yep, you got me back now.
Well, do you know what? That was an amazing. I was loath to stop you when you were in full flight, but it looks like the internet did it for us. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I know the answer to this, but people watching the video might not know this, and I find it the most inspiring thing about your whole journey, which is the way it started. And I know you mentioned writing the word hunger upon the blackboard, but am I right in thinking that this all began when kids turned up hungry at the school you were teaching at, and you thought that if you had any hope of teaching them anything at all, you had to feed them first? Wasn't it as simple as that?
Yeah, it was addressing that basic need of hunger and feeding young people as adults. If we go to training courses, generally the first thing you get offered is food, and you're well nourished throughout the day. And the more senior in your roles, the better the food and the better the provision. But actually, I guess it's like flipping that pyramid in a sense that these are the young people that they're our future, and how are you expected to concentrate and to produce your best performance if the only thing you're thinking about is when your next meal is coming along? So it is really important, and we've really seen some amazing organizations working towards that, and the campaigns for universal free school meals. We've seen, starting in September of this year, London being the first area to provide that universal free school meal for every child in primary setting, which is absolutely incredible. I think other areas, York maybe, are also working towards that. So the need for young people to be fed, to be nourished, to be able to learn and to engage in that learning process. You think about the amount of public money we spend on teachers' wages, but the efficiency of that ultimately can be influenced by how well nourished and how well fed a child is. So we have to think about the bigger picture sometimes, rather than just the clickbait that it might cause through discussions online.
And am I right in thinking as well, going right back to the beginning, and forgive me for taking you back there constantly, but I think, you know, some of the most amazing work that gets done in the world starts with just a little germ of an idea. And, you know, I have this image of you being faced with the kids, not being able to teach them, needing to get some food, reaching out to wholesale markets and the other places that you went to. But then didn't you also, when you started to get the food in, begin to make that available to parents? Coming back to your bit about abundance and poverty, I have this vision. I don't know whether I've made it up, of almost like a market stall in the schoolyard where people would come and collect food.
Yeah, that's right. We bought a market stall that went at the school gates so that people could collect the food at the beginning. And that's a program that's now scaled as well. So we work with schools. Before we send any food into a school, the first thing that they do is to work through a series of modules where they set up their own little social enterprise. So a school will design its own logo, it'll come up with a business name and come up with a slogan, and then they apply for jobs within that particular enterprise. So thinking about finance role, thinking about marketing, thinking about food safety, and they're guided through our learning platform by experts as part of this process. Then a market stall gets delivered into the school, and then following
An
that,
actual
a week.
stall.
Yeah, we've had custom made stalls on wheels that get sent into schools, and then the food arrives, and then they distribute the food to their community through these market stalls. And we've got those stalls as far up as Edinburgh. We've got a great partnership with a number of different schools up in North Edinburgh that run the market stall program. We've got schools right the way through the heart of the country that we've been able to partner with Fairshare, who are a surplus food provider, who are able to deliver the food into those communities. And Asda commissioned a project around that where we trained 50 of their community champions across the country, who then went into local schools to deliver the program using the learning platform and the big screens in the classroom. And then the food, so it's like that trainer model that has then just the passion from the community champions.
The internet's done it to us again, Nathan. I don't know if you can hear me, can you?
Yeah. And so when I described this headquarters to you, we only moved in 2 weeks ago. So we're running off a Wi-Fi router at the minute. I'm waiting for the infrastructure to be put in place. So apologies if we keep dipping out there.
Well, the one thing it does is it gives you a chance to draw breath, because you must have told this story so many times to so many people. It's like lighting the blue touch paper, isn't it? And I wanted to ask you something, because we've gone back to the beginning. You've told the story to where you are now, which is amazing. All these different aspects of food and sustainability that you use to educate not just the kids, but the teachers and the parents, the whole communities. With what is happening, where's it all heading, and how far ahead do you dare look? What's your big vision?
Well, like I said, the goal is to deliver these 10 million hours, and the programs that we've developed and the increase in the schools that we're working with, we'll achieve those. And we've set a deadline of 2030 to tie in with the SDGs. Our goal is to be working with 7,000 primary schools across the country within the next 4 years. We want to achieve that. With schools, the challenge is always remaining relevant and being up to date, and trying to be nimble and flexible, and making sure that the content keeps evolving to keep the engagement, because the generations will go through schools. And it's trying to work with more and more schools. We have some great partnerships with corporates, so Greggs and Asda, Savills, who are a property company. And so our goal is, so there's kind of 3 that we want to work on. We always need more food to provide locally. So we're constantly seeking there. We want to work with more schools. So 7,000 is a target. And we have a really strong system of planning and sales and marketing. And so we want to keep working towards that. And then we want to work with more corporates, because of their approach to ESG, or corporate social responsibility. They have budgets that we can showcase now how we've really effectively been able to produce high quality content to go out into schools. So to be able to work with more partners to provide more content for those schools.
And I do wonder, now that you have so much learning content appearing online, I bet anything that people in other countries are beginning to sit up and take notice. I mean, what's your strategy there? Because you've got so much to do in the United Kingdom. Do you try and prevent it going overseas, or are you happy, or do you limit it? What's your approach?
Yeah, we're quite happy. We haven't got a strategic plan to work beyond, but if opportunities arise, we're always curious, because those opportunities can help us refine our program for it to become even clearer. And every opportunity is a new learning experience. We offer a monthly webinar where we provide free content, free training for anybody to join that. So we did one in July, and that was attended from teachers in Romania, in Greece, in Turkey, as well as people who homeschool their children, as well as teachers as well from across the country. So providing this content, not always paid for, not always needed for funding, but being able to offer that and being able to extend that to countries beyond the UK is definitely something that we're curious about.
Fantastic. And I've only got two more questions for you, Nathan, and then I'll let you get back to making the new depot and the new centre operational. Two things. First of all, there are always, with programs like this, some very human stories. I don't know whether it's the kids or whether it's other people that are involved with it, or whether it's Kevin, who I know has supported and worked with you all these years. But what are the sort of the special moments that are just like gold in your memory? Could you tell us a story or two?
In thinking about that, I have goosebumps really. The most recent one, I was invited into. It was a high school that we were working with, and they set up a community cafe, and they had the market stall, and we're more used to working with young people at primary school age. So when we get a chance to work in a high school, it's interesting. And I went to visit, and the families, it was during school time, but people were coming in, and I'd not been in school for a while, to be honest, because of just the sheer busyness of everything, and hearing some of the challenges. So the school had made some meals. One of the teachers had taken some of the food home that we provided, and she made some curries, and she packaged them up, and they were just in little takeaway containers. And she gave one to this dad, and she said, what you have to do is just either put it in the microwave or put it in the oven. And his answer was, I haven't got either of those. And that just floored me, because no matter how much you listen and you expose yourself and you talk and you're in these spaces, when you hear that come from somebody's mouth that they haven't got a microwave or an oven, and yet but their solution was, but I'll sort something. And it just, listening to and seeing that frontline experience and the reality of the people that are in the most need of our support, it never fails to kind of floor you. And I just walked back to my car in tears and sat in the car, rang Kevin, and I was like crying. He's like, what's wrong? I was just saying, this is so important that we're doing this. And when you're thinking about scaling and you're thinking about developing an organization and you're wanting to get systems, processes, establishing something, that's the reason why we do it. And sometimes being in the field and speaking to the people that are really our most stakeholders that are in the greatest need is really important. But there have been so many moments like that. And I remember launching a market stall program in Leicester, and a boy coming up and saying, can I take food from this stall? I was saying, yeah, of course you can. He said, but I haven't got any money. I said, it's absolutely fine. You don't need to pay for it. You can just take it. And his mum was stood about 20 meters away. She was too embarrassed or proud or whatever it was. She'd sent this boy, and the delight when he was able to fill a bag of food then to take home. And bearing in mind, this is surplus food that the system deemed unfit for purpose, is just kind of like, it just bowls you over. And then the quality of the work that the young people produce. So every time we work with a new school and we set up that social enterprise, they come up with a new business name. Some of the names that they come up with, we would have never imagined. Professional people working in marketing and design, they wouldn't come up with some of these names. They're incredible. And the slogans that the kids come up with, they're just brilliant. And it shows how you can use food and this dire need of hunger that it started out to be inspiring young people to think about marketing, and so it's a really raw need that is sparking off ideas and might introduce somebody to a career that they never imagined, or might open up an opportunity that they never thought of. And because of our approach and the way that we want this to be positive, it just means that something that is really, really terrible can come out of something that might be more positive in the future.
That's amazing, Nathan. And I think you've kind of overlapped with my final question, which is just to ask you, what is it that really inspires you to do the work that you do? I mean, you've put so much effort and personal energy, you and Kevin, into doing this work. But what is it that you find most inspirational?
It's that drive and that hunger and that the innocence of young people and the vulnerability of those young people. I guess empathy is a big part of that, and always being somebody who's fought for the underdog, right down to the football team I support, but that's another story entirely. You know, it's just like always believing in people and wanting people to believe in themselves, to be able to empower people, and something as basic need.
There's that Wi-Fi again. You're back.
Yeah, just that hunger and that basic need that people have, that vulnerability, it just drives us every single day. Recently we made like an illustrated film of our story, and we young people voiced that film for us, to tell the story of Rethink Food. And hearing it from the voice of young people, again, that just kind of, it's very grounding. And my 6th year out of education working on this, so it's kind of a almost a lifetime in some sense. I've been able to do that, and doing it to the level of professionalism, setting up a not-for-profit organization, the networking, the endless hours.
I think your Wi-Fi is being stretched to the limit, Nathan.
Yeah, I think yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
It's probably giving me a sign to stop talking.
No, I'd just like to kind of summarize by saying a big thank you for giving me your time today. I thank you for doing the work that you do, and I'm sure people watching the video will be interested to know where they can find out more. So I'm guessing that there's a Rethink Food website. I'm sure if they search for it, they'd find it. But have you got the URL?
Yeah, rethinkfood.co.uk, and across all social media at rethinkfooduk.
Fantastic. Well, I hope people will sit up, take notice, and be inspired by what you do. I'm sure what you're doing is having all sorts of impacts and ripple effects that you won't even get to know about, but it's all amazing. So on behalf of the whole world, thank you for what you do, Nathan. And I'm going to stop recording now. And I just think it's amazing. So